Are you overwhelmed by to-do lists that never seem to end? Tasks feel urgent, but not all of them really matter, and somehow your energy runs out before the day even ends? I've been there, overcommitting, burning out, and still not doing what actually moves the needle. Until I built this system in Notion. It helps me to know what to do first, what to schedule, what to delegate, and what to ditch. And all of that while keeping my workload manageable. The problem is, most productivity systems miss one of two things: priority or capacity. The Eisenhower Matrix solves the priority part. It asks two simple questions: is it urgent? And is it important? What does it mean? Is it urgent means usually the task has a deadline or it has immediate consequences if I delay it. If you can answer one of these questions with a yes, then the task is urgent and falls in one of the two squares on the left side of the Eisenhower matrix. What does importance mean? Importance means that the task, or if you fulfill the task, then it contributes to a long-term goal, a value, or a responsibility. And if you don't do this, it has serious consequences. So if you can reply one of these two questions with a yes, then this task falls on the two upper squares of the matrix. So now, what does it mean if a task is urgent and important? These are usually tasks that have a deadline or have consequences if you don't do them. These are tasks that you do first. They are super important, they are urgent. These are the ones that you should focus on first. A task that is important but not urgent is usually a task that doesn't have a clear deadline. You know you should do it sometime, but you don't have a fixed date yet. But if you do this task, it contributes to a long-term success. So these are tasks that are important but not urgent, so you should find some time to do them, meaning you should schedule them. Tasks that fall in the schedule corner, they're usually they fall in your growth and strategy zone. So these are tasks like learning a new skill set, doing health exercise. So this is nothing that is super urgent, but is important for a long-term goal, meaning keeping yourself healthy, being better prepared for a new job. These are tasks that you can schedule. Tasks that are urgent but not important, they have to be done, but they don't require a specific skill set, so they don't necessarily need to be done by you. So these are the tasks that you can delegate, that also someone else could do. For example, meeting notes. You know you have to send the meeting notes to your boss by tomorrow, so they have a deadline, they are urgent. But it's not important that you set these meeting notes. It's important that someone sends the meeting notes. So you can delegate this task to someone else. And tasks that are neither important nor urgent, these are the ones that are usually distractions or they're unnecessary tasks. So these ones you can delete. For example, scrolling on social media without any purpose behind it. It's just wasting time. It's a distraction. It's unnecessary. You don't need to do that. You can delete it. But the Eisenhower matrix is not enough for me to plan or to manage my tasks. I also added a workload tracker to my system because even the most important tasks, they can drain your energy completely. So what I did is I added this workload here as well. So it calculates how intense a task is. So how much of my mental capacities it requires me to fulfill this task. So this helps me to better manage my energy throughout the day. So if I see that I have very important task, but I have, let's say, 3 tasks that I have to do today. They fall in the do first Eisenhower matrix group, but one of them is high load and 2 of them are of medium or low load. I would rather do the high load one in the morning because I am more awake in the morning. My mental capacities are much better in the morning than they are in the afternoon or evening. So it helps me to better manage my energies throughout the day. But let me explain you how it actually looks like. So this is the raw table. So what you see here is, of course, the task and the due date. And one thing that I added before even adding the Eisenhower or workload formulas is a deadline. So I don't only see the due date of the task, I can visually see how close the deadline is approaching. So I have tasks that are already overdue because their due date was before today. I have tasks that are due today, due tomorrow, some that are coming soon, and some that are due in the future. So the first thing that I do is to actually group by deadline like this. So the first thing I see here is tasks that are overdue, then tasks that are due tomorrow, due today, due tomorrow, coming soon, and in the future. Then I have two checkbox properties, one for important, one for urgent. These ones I use to calculate the Eisenhower Matrix. So then I can categorize or sort by do first, schedule, delegate, or eliminate. And the last one is that I need is the effort property. Here I can rate from 1 to 5 how much effort it requires. And I can assign different categories, or I just call it tags to the task. So in which category does it fall? Does a task fall into design, coding, deep work, shallow work, admin work? And depending on how many tags a task has, the more mental capacities it uses. So it uses a formula that adds something to a multiplier. So the overall effort of this task will increase the more tags or categories you add to it. So then the workload is calculated. And the last one I have here is a status property, if it's done, if I'm in between doing it, or if it's already, or if it's not started yet. Okay, so let's go through it step by step. So I will just hide the ones that we don't need now. So we can only focus on the ones that I am explaining. Okay, so let's first focus on the deadline formula. Therefore, we need a little helper that is days left, and that calculates the days between the due date and now. What you actually would use in that case, now I just do it here, is a much simpler formula. Let's call it days between. So here you would actually calculate the days, date between, and then the due date, and now, and this we want to have in days. Okay, so, but what you see here now, when we compare this side by side, then everything that is due today, so it is 0, of course, because there are no days in between now and today. That is correct. But when you look here now, a task that is due tomorrow, so tomorrow is May 11, then you have here in the simple date between formula 0 days left. So it would actually show you due today. However, from today to tomorrow, there's 1 day. So this more complicated formula shows 1 day. So how do we fix this? Because what the usual date between formula does, it takes or it calculates the hours. And if it's less than 24 hours, then it's 0 days. So now we have 2:45. So it's not 24 hours anymore until the next day starts. So it will return a 0. What we do in this formula is we reset both days, so now, and the due date to 0 hours, 0 minutes, so midnight, so that we have exactly 24 hours per day in between the due date and now. So this will return us a 1. So what we do here now is we subtract the hours from our due date, which in that case is 0 hours, 0 minutes. So in that case, it doesn't really matter because there's no time. We subtract the hours and the minutes, and we do the same for now. So in that case, for now, we would subtract 14 hours and 43 minutes from today. So we would go back to midnight at 0000. Okay, so this formula we need. And then when we have a look at this formula, we define variables. So we define the due variable, which is nothing else than our days left formula or property here. And then we will define the action. And the action is, if the due date is smaller than 0, then it is already overdue. It's overdue, it's a bit formatted still, that the background is red. Where do we have an overdue? Here, red, and it's in bold and red, the letters itself. If it equals 0, then we have due today formatted with an orange background. If due is equals 1, then it's due tomorrow. If it's smaller or equal 3, then it's a deadline that is approaching soon, and otherwise it is in the future. And depending on that, the action will be executed. So we have our deadline formula here. So now we could already group it according to that, but let's first check the other ones. So this we can delete because this is not helpful for us. So, and these ones we hide because we don't need them anymore. Hide. So let's continue with our Eisenhower property. Therefore, we need important, urgent, and the Eisenhower itself. Okay, so as I was explaining in the beginning, the Eisenhower Matrix prioritizes your tasks according to whether they're important and or urgent. So we have two checkboxes. One is called important, the other one is urgent, and you can just check them in case this is true. So what this formula does, the Eisenhower, it defines, again, variables. We have U, that is nothing else than our urgent property, and we have an I that stands for our important property, and then it labels the following. So if it is important and urgent, so if important is checked and urgent is checked, then it labels the task as due first, because this one falls into this upper left corner. It is a task that has a deadline or consequences if we don't do it. If urgent is not checked but important is checked, then it labels it with schedule. So here this is schedule, which is the upper right corner. Not urgent but important, so tasks that don't have a clear deadline but contribute to long-term goals, values, or responsibilities. Then the next one, if it is urgent but not important, then it labels it with delegate. So here we have a task that is to delegate, so it is urgent because it maybe has a deadline, but is not important, so it falls in this lower left corner. So tasks that must get done but don't necessarily must get done by you, can be done by someone else as well. And if none of that is true, so if it's neither important nor urgent, then it labels it with eliminate. So it's tasks that we don't need to do, that don't contribute to anything, that are distractions, unnecessary tasks. So this, for example, organize the Google Drive. These are just example tasks, by the way. In that case, is to eliminate because it's neither urgent nor important. Okay, so now we have sorted the task, or we have labeled the task by the deadline approaching, and we have labeled them by our Eisenhower matrix. So the last one is to also label them by the workload they require us to do. So I will hide these ones again. And let's focus on effort, tax, load, and no, not the deadline, but the workload. Okay, so what do we find here? The effort task is just a number property, so you have to fill in a number according to how much effort you think this task requires. This is a number from 1 to 5. So the tags, the tags you can create by yourself depending on the categories your task usually fall in. So these are just some examples here, but the more tags you add here, the more categories you add, the higher the workload will be. So how do we calculate the load? So we define again a variable. The effort variable is nothing else than our number property effort. And then we have a variable that is called context. And the context calculates the length of the tags. What does mean the length? So the length means how many tags you have assigned here. So in the first one, in client deliverable, the length would be 2 because we have 2 tags assigned here. In respond to review email, it will only be 1 because there's only 1 tag assigned. And then it calculates the load. And the load is calculated by the effort multiplied by the context minus 1 plus 1. What does it mean? So let's have a look at this formula in a bit more detail. Let's do it like this and paste it in here. Okay, so let's take this. So now we only have one variable in here, which is our context variable. And we said our context variable is basically the number of tags we have assigned. If we now have a task that has 2 tags, we have 1 plus, and then in parentheses our 2, because we have 2 tasks, minus 1. And this we multiply by 0.25 and we add a 1. What does it mean? Where do we come out with that? So we have 1 plus 2 minus 1 is 1 times 0.25, which equals then 1.25. So, and then we multiply this with the effort we assigned it here, or we defined here. How does it look like if we now have only one category assigned? Then our context is 1, and then our result will be 1 plus 0, because 1 minus 1 is 0, times 0.25 equals, so what would it be? 0 times 2.25 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So with each category that you add, you will increase this multiplier here, this multiplier that you use to multiply your effort with. So with each category that you add more, your entire effort will increase. This 2 is that we rounded to 2 decimals, as you see here in this last one, 6.25. So let's do the example with the last one. So we have this entire one, copy this we can delete again. So our effort in that case here is 5. Our context is 2. And then we have, this is 1. We have 1, we have 5 times 1, 2, 5. And it's rounded to 2 decimals. So what is this? It's 6.5. 6.25, sorry. So it's exactly what is the result here. So, and now this load property we use to visualize our workload. So we just say if our load is higher than 8.5, it's a very high load. If it's higher than 6, it's high load. And if it's higher than 3.5, it's medium load. Otherwise, it's low load. Okay, and this is actually all that we need. And now we can start sorting. So I will make all of this visible again and sort it a bit. So our days left were here. Then it's our deadline. Important, urgent, Eisenhower here. And the rest we can leave as it is. So what I suggest, what helps me the most is to group it according to when the deadline is approaching. So if a task is already overdue or due today, or if I still have time. So we could group it now according to the deadline. So, but now you must sort it manually, because alphabetically it will just go according to the letter it starts with, which doesn't really make sense. It doesn't help us much. So you have to choose manual, and then you can just drag and drop here. So overdue is already right here, then due today, due tomorrow, coming soon, and future. Okay, now we have grouped it by the deadline, so we can hide this in the view. We don't need it anymore, and also the days left we can hide here. So now we could sort by Eisenhower, but here also the same problem, but here you cannot do it manually, is that it will go alphabetically here. Ascending would be alphabetically, like DE comes before DO. If you go descending, then it does it the other way around. So it doesn't really help us, because schedule would be schedule and eliminate. Schedule would be good here, but eliminate would go before schedule. So it doesn't really help us much. So what I do, I delete this and I sort first important, here descending, and then a second sort I do urgent, also here descending. You can also do it the other way around. You can go first by urgency and then by importance, is also fine. So now you see here do first and delegate comes after each other, and then here in the future you first see the ones that you have to schedule instead of first seeing the ones to eliminate. Okay, so then we can hide this, and I do like this. So I first see, okay, do this first. This is the first thing that I see. And then I also sort by workload. So I go again here and add another sort. And here I choose not workload, because then we have the alphabetical problem again. I choose load, because this is just a numeric value. And here I go by descending. So I see the ones with high load first. And now I first, on the very top, I see the ones that I have to do first, that I have a high load, then the ones that I have to do first but have a low load. So I can better manage my energy throughout the day by doing first the ones that require a lot of mental energy, and then once the day progresses, I do the ones that require less mental capacity. I would hide this because this is for me not important to see. This I only add when I add the task. So the only thing that I see now is the Eisenhower Matrix, what I have to do, the due date, and the workload it requires. And that helps me a lot to manage my tasks, to prioritize, and also organize my day better according to my mental capacity. So it helps me not to overwork and not to focus too much on tasks that don't add any value to my goals, my long-term goals, my responsibilities, that don't move the needle actually. Yeah, so this was it. This is how I manage my task, and maybe it helps some of you to also better manage their tasks, prioritize better, and also to manage their energy throughout the day better. I would be very happy if you give this video a like, and if you like my content, if you are interested in Notion, Apple shortcuts, automations, productivity, then I would be very happy as well if you subscribe to my channel. If you don't want to build all these formulas from scratch by hand, you can also download the file, the Notion template with all the formulas included already in the description. Yeah, that was it. Have a nice time and see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.